Dismissive avoidants don't just fear intimacy. They also fear engulfment. Engulfment is losing themselves in a relationship to somebody who's ultimately going to reject them and abandon them. They subconsciously associate intimacy with rejection, abandonment, and getting smothered and controlled. They deeply want it. They long for it. It's human nature for anybody that doesn't have a personality disorder. You want to be loved and you want to love. You want to be seen, you want to be heard, you want to be cared about, and you want to be valued. Dismissive avoidants are no exception to that. But due to their core attachment wounds and their lack of self-awareness, their subconscious mind from childhood is programmed to run away from healthy intimacy. Let me explain why. Dismissive avoidants are people that grew up in households where they received consistent childhood emotional neglect. Their emotional needs were not met at all. They often had parents that rejected and dismissed their emotions. Sometimes there were even consequences for them if they showed emotion. So they learned to stuff it, bottle it up. Their emotions were not welcome, and they didn't receive that love and nurturing that they needed, which they personalized. And they developed a core wound of shame. I must be defective. I must not be lovable, because they personalized that neglect. Now, in addition to that neglect and dismissal of emotions, they often had a parent or parents that were very controlling and smothering with high expectations. Most commonly, a parent that is a narcissist. Narcissistic parents are very dismissive of emotions, but they often have high expectations of their children. And that's because narcissistic parents don't view children as independent, autonomous beings with feelings of their own. They view children as extensions of themselves. So when the child excels, the narcissistic parent gets their ego stroked. They get the narcissistic supply by proxy. Oh, my kid's amazing because I'm amazing. And because I'm amazing, my kid's amazing. Look how amazing my kid is. But when their kid doesn't excel, the narcissistic parent doesn't like that. Very disappointing. So the dismissive avoidant grows up fearing intimacy because of that shame. If I lower my walls, my partner might figure out I'm defective. And if I get too close, I might be smothered and controlled and lose my independence. And then they're going to figure out I'm defective, and they're going to reject me. So I'll be rejected, heartbroken, and I'll have lost my ability to fend for myself. So intimacy triggers every core wound in their body. Also, this big fear of disappointing their partner, not meeting expectations because of that demanding narcissistic parent. Even the slightest bit of expectations, healthy, normal expectations in a relationship, feels insurmountable to a dismissive avoidant because they couldn't meet the expectations of that controlling narcissistic parent. And they directly associate closeness with being smothered. That's what their narcissistic parent did. They also associate it with rejection because that's what their narcissistic parent did. So even though they want to be loved, it feels unsafe to them. And that's not something you can fix as their partner. You can be consistent, you can be loving, you can give them all the space in the world. But inevitably, emotional closeness builds as a relationship advances. And you're going to have some expectations. You're going to want the relationship to advance. You're not going to want it to just be a stale, stagnant situationship forever. So when you express your needs, when you express your desires and your expectations, and when closeness builds, the dismissive avoidant is inevitably going to get triggered. And that is just a reality of being in a relationship with an unhealed, dismissive avoidant that lacks self-awareness. You can't do anything to fix that. All you can do is hold your boundaries with this person. Your boundaries are the limits you set with yourself of what you will allow, what kind of behavior and treatment that you will subject yourself to. It's not about controlling the other person because you can't control the other person. If you're trying to control the other person, then you're issuing ultimatums, and that's not what boundaries are. But they can protect you because if this person fails to operate within your limits and they don't respect your boundaries, you can enforce that with yourself and remove yourself from the relationship. Yes, it hurts. It does hurt. But continuing to stay in a relationship where your boundaries aren't being respected and your needs aren't being met is self-abandonment. And it's teaching you that your needs don't matter, and it pushes you into a very anxious place. So recognize you're not responsible for this person's core wounds. You're not responsible for their fears. And recognize it has nothing to do with you. It's their attachment wounds from childhood. Closeness is unsafe to them. That's what they learned. It has nothing to do with the value of a partner that you are or how good of a lover you are. It has nothing to do with that. And it is no bearing, has no reflection on your worth. Never forget that.